WCRF live in studio because, hello, it's back open again. What's it?
Oh, yeah.
The state.
That's right. Where you find it, it's open.
Here. Find it here.
Find it here.
Right. I didn't even remember.
He's assistant professor of digital media at Cedarville University, Professor Sean O'Connor.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So now the school year's over, right? At Cedarville?
Is. It's been over for about a month. So I've been off and doing some freelance work. My wife and I went on vacation a couple weeks ago to Florida, and now we're in Cleveland visiting family. And my wife actually works for a ministry in Cleveland that many of our listeners might recognize, Truth for Life with Alistair Begg.
Oh, sure.
And so she works remotely for them while I'm in school, and then when we come up to Cleveland to visit family, she's in the office. I
was going to say it's a long commute to Cedarville if you're living here, but no, you're visiting family here. That makes much more sense.
Yeah, so it's been great.
So now you're our movie guy. You talked to us about media and movies. Mm-hmm. And just to give people some perspective, a lot of Christians would say, oh, you shouldn't even watch movies. Movies are evil unless it's about Jesus. What's your perspective, just generally speaking, on discerning content?
Yeah, I think, and we've talked about this a few times, I think it's helpful to know Scripture more than you know film history, film theory, and just be in the habit of reading the Bible and being in prayer more often than you're watching movies. I think I've been, much younger, very guilty of that, and slowly have been convicted of that and trying to get better. And so that means, I think, when you're grounded in Scripture, you can look at a movie and say either, okay, this is saying something that's biblically accurate, although the worldview is slightly off, and you can recognize what that is, or you just look at what the subject matter is or the rating or whatever and say, you know what, that's going to be a stumbling block for me. I'm not going to go see that movie. I don't think outlawing every film is wise or necessary in a lot of cases. And so it's going to be an interesting few months as what you were saying. Movie theaters they've been open for several months on and off, just with limited screenings and capacity and things like that. But as we see more movies coming out and being marketed as an in-theater experience, families will have the opportunity to ask that question themselves.
And I've thought about taking my kids to Quiet Place, which is, I understand, Quiet Place 2, which I understand you've done that.
I saw that Monday, and it was fantastic. I don't know how old your kids are. It's scary. It's intense. I would say it's more intense than the first movie.
Really?
Yes. A lot of the jump scares and things like that. I thought it was very entertaining, and I would go see it again. But it's things like that where I encourage parents, especially if you see a movie that's rated PG-13, it doesn't necessarily mean that your kids will understand it or not be scarred for life. In some cases, I don't know, but I guess that means knowing your kids.
Yeah, and it's hard to even judge age sometimes because I have one of my older kids who's in middle school is easily scared by film, and so what that kid can handle is different than even a younger one can handle in some respects. Right. But you're saying there's nothing about Quiet Place 2 that would be like, oh, no, you're going to leave there and you're going to be in the occult.
No.
Or you're going to, it's going to be a violation of biblical morality to go watch that film.
No, and there are very few instances where I actually have felt that way. I can't really think of any films off the top of my head. There's a few that are quite, such a worldview that's so off kilter that I'm like, no, I don't want to see that ever again. I don't want to, don't touch it.
I know one cool thing that happened during the pandemic and quarantine was Hamilton being available for the rest of us regular people to watch.
Yeah.
And
if you have Disney Plus.
Well, yeah, but I was thinking about the price of those tickets. I was like, oh yeah, guess I ain't never gonna watch Hamilton. They're coming with more.
Yeah. So before the guy who wrote the musical Hamilton, he wrote a musical called In the Heights on Broadway, and that movie adaptation comes out in a couple weeks, I think, to theaters and to HBO Max. There's this weird thing that some studios are putting their movie in theaters and on their streaming service.
Yeah.
I think it's to get more profit, but also test the waters of how many people are actually going to the theater to watch this versus just staying at home.
Right.
I would always rather go to the theater.
Me too.
There are going to be some cases, like in terms of schedule and things like that, where it's more convenient to watch from home. And there are a few streaming services that my wife and I have, but I'd always rather go to the theater. And I feel like In the Heights is probably a good example of something that I would appreciate in that kind of environment.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's another movie coming out the following week, Luca, Disney and Pixar's new movie, that is only on Disney Plus.
Oh.
And so I got to get Disney Plus again in order to watch it.
And first, before I move on to the next one, is In the Heights is a story about Latinos in New York, right?
It is, yeah. It's a unfortunately, I haven't seen the musical, and I don't know much about the story, but it's a lot. It's sort of a coming of age story for this community of people in New York, and obviously a musical. And it's very bombastic, and it's been getting good reviews. And so I would be interested in seeing it. And
are there superheroes in it?
Well, Latino. Hello, Latino superhero. That's like equal.
Okay. Is there outer space? Time travel?
No, I think it's just New York.
Superpowers?
Yeah. You're not going to go.
So there's singing and dancing.
Yeah, hello, musical. And the story of Latinos in New York.
So it's like real life people are hanging out and then all of a sudden they break into song and choreograph dance?
There you go.
Something
exactly.
like
what happens in regular life, right?
Yeah.
It's my favorite.
Which is the kind of movie I think people are going to be like, oh, that should be seen in a theater. So again, it's a good test.
True. So with this trend of streaming services releasing movies, Raya?
Ryan the Last Dragon.
And the Last Dragon. I was thinking, okay, are we going that direction? So it became available on Disney Plus, super expensive compared to what's regularly available. Right. But when I compared it to taking all 6 of my kids to the movies, I was like,
exactly.
Wow, that's a good trend to go toward.
So some movies like that, Disney Plus will say, you can pay $30 to see this exclusively for a period of time. And me and my wife and me, just the two of us, it's cheaper to go to a theater to see a movie like that. Okay. But if you have a family of, several kids, that is a pretty good deal. And there are a lot of families that have taken advantage of that. So, again, my wife and I don't have kids. We're just us. And I would always rather go to the theater anyway. So
it's a lot more fun that way.
Yeah.
Now, one of the things you were kind of implying earlier as we're talking about some of the films this summer is that sometimes you go to a movie to be entertained, and that's it.
Right.
And I've heard some argue that it always have to be like on the watch. What are the messages? Watch out for this and that. So, am I correct in assessing that sometimes you just go and there's a point at which you're just kind of turning your brain off and having fun?
Yeah, I mean, I think there can be value in that. I mean, Scripture says, obviously, whatever is pure and noble and true, think on those things. And so, to a degree, I think I don't want to just be entertained by a movie. And that may just be me speaking, just being a big movie fan and somebody who's interested in video production myself and doing that kind of thing. If you're simply entertaining and that's it, then, you have a film that you might enjoy for a couple hours and then just never touch again. You know what I mean? So my hope
what are you
is,
looking for?
So I think not every film, in fact, most films aren't going to be proclaiming a specific scriptural truth, with reference and all. But there are certainly lessons, I would say. I mean, I anticipate with Luca on Disney Plus in a couple of weeks, there will be lessons of family and perseverance and things like that families can go see together on that streaming service and talk about, like, what does this mean to, brotherhood and things like that. And then, have a separate discussion about what does the Bible say about that kind of thing. Same with, for instance, we were talking about Marvel movies earlier. Black Widow is one that's coming out next month. And
next month, finally, they keep changing
July
it.
9th, tentatively. I mean, basically, I'm just like, I won't believe it until the movie's actually in theaters. But, there's probably going to be themes in that film of identity and family and things like that I know that the characters in that film will have wrestled with for that story. And hopefully it's a launching point for Christians to go see it and say, okay, where do we find our identity? And what does family and sacrifice look like for us based on what the Bible teaches and what God's Word says?
Which films are you most looking forward to on the list of things coming out in the next few months?
I do want to see In the Heights. I do want to see Luca, Black Widow. Jungle Cruise is another Disney movie that comes out at the end of July based on the ride. and
the
also
ride's
the game.
horrible.
Is it? Well, I forget. But my wife and I enjoy the board game, and so we will probably end up seeing that.
Hold up, Aretha Franklin's story?
So there's a movie called Respect that comes out in August. That is a biopic of Aretha Franklin, starring Jennifer Hudson from
that's cool.
American Idol and Dreamgirls.
Now that's a ticket right there, baby. You take me to that movie.
Yeah, I assume that there'll be a lot of people that would be interested in seeing that. And that was a movie that was delayed from last year. So
cool.
Hopefully a lot of people are excited about that.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, you're most excited for the Marvel films, and you could just pass on the musical. Is that right? No.
Well, me?
Yeah.
The Heights.
The Marvel movies, I'm like, I see them once and that's it. But I honestly, my most anticipated movie of the next few months is called Coda. CODA. It's an independent film that won the big award at the Sundance Film Festival earlier this year.
Okay, tell us about this.
It's about a young, probably teenage girl who has aspirations of being a singer, but her parents are deaf. And so it's this conflict. I think it's based on a previously made international film about just the conflict of that family and following your dreams to an extent. And I believe it's going to be available on the Apple TV streaming service, which I do have because of my phone plan. So I'm looking forward to those are the kind of movies I get excited about. Those kind of smaller but hopefully more intimate and character-driven kind of dramas.
Well, yeah, because the smaller films often rely more on writing and acting and character development.
Sure.
To capture your attention and not visual effects.
See that, Brian?
What's nice about Marvel is it has all those things. All of them.
But he's supporting the little guy. See that?
Well, but I think as Christians sometimes we even overemphasize what's the message versus great stories and great characters. And even flawed characters can be an example of what the consequence of sin. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. I mean, we talk about that in my classes on screenwriting and storytelling. I mean, there's different types of stories with different types of journeys characters go through, and sometimes they end on a positive note, and sometimes it's a negative note. And there are plenty of examples of both in Scripture, which I think supports the fact that we, as Christian storytellers, can go into that field and tell a variety of stories because that's been demonstrated to us in God's Word.
Although it seems like in modern history, like in the last, let's just say 20 years, Christian filmmaking tends to operate with one story arc.
Yeah.
And the story arc is, I'm bad, life is horrible, Jesus, life's great, I'm saved.
Yeah.
That seems to be the story arc. Are you seeing Christian filmmakers coming up with other story arcs?
I would say, I think filmmakers have kind of played with that structure on and off for decades. I mean, you go back and see even Christian films of the 70s, like The Hiding Place and things like that. That was not the structure they took on. Even recently, I saw a movie. It's on Netflix called Blue Miracle. That is a kind of faith-friendly film that they've done with Sony's faith-based company, which is it's hard because there are some things that are well done and there's very clear references to God and prayer and the idea of the story of this guy who's in charge of an orphanage having to rely on him for the boy's safety.
It's called Blue Miracle?
Blue Miracle. Yeah.
On Netflix.
It's on Netflix. I think it just came out. It was actually doing pretty well, I think, on the charts on Netflix. But it's an example of a film that addresses faith issues, does not go into the gospel or even really scriptural references or anything like that really at all. And so, I mean, part of me says, well, I'm kind of bothered by that too, like not explicitly saying what the gospel is and not using that. So it's hard, and I think it'll take even more decades for us to get that kind of storytelling right. But I think it's a worthy cause.
Again, Professor Sean O'Connor is Assistant Professor of Digital Media at Cedarville University. Highly recommend you check him out. Cedarville.edu. Cedarville.edu. Really grateful you took the time to come and hang with us in studio while you're in town, my friend.
Thank you for having me. It's a blessing.